Even with recent nerfs to Blue Fire, Kairos is still oppressively strong in many ways. One of the biggest parts of that is Regrowth, which honestly as a spell probably deserves a little bit of a nerf. Although it is an essential tool for a lot of factions, I do think just in general the game would benefit if Regrowth was just a little bit less efficient. But Kairos isn't here for today, he's been banned from this battle, so instead we're going to look at Anti-Kaiju versus Koops here, Tzeentch versus the Dark Elves. And already Tzeentch opening with some Marauder Horsemen volleys for Marauder Horsemen, so looking for plenty of mobility in this matchup. This is sort of like a Warriors adjacent matchup, which means, you know, historically, Dark Elves have had a really good time with their mobile ranged units, kiting and kind of using that phase of the battle to punish Warriors of Chaos, and many of the Gamonogots factions also have that issue. Tzeentch less so because they have probably the most ranged tools, the best ranged tools of any Monogod faction. So we've got some of that here. Looks like some blues on foot as well. 3 of them. We've got 3 Marauders, a couple of Chaos Knights here, and then, of course, the Walmart, or probably, you know, let's say Trader Joe's Big Bird for those of you internationals. It's like a little bit more of like a bougie grocery store, right? So it's not necessarily Walmart. It's still generic brand, you know, it's not... I think Sartharail is the true Walmart Big Bird, but anyway, it's like the nicer generic brand, you know, of Lord of Change. It's not Kairos, and it is Lord of Metal. Meanwhile, Koops coming in hot with the Supreme Sorceress of Dark Magic up on a dragon. Very smart, strong Lord choice. Couple of Cold One Dread Knights, couple of Dark Riders with shields, Scourge Chariots, a whole mess of Bleak Swords, and a single Blackguard act as elite infantry, along with the Karens of Cain. And, yeah, Tzeentch Knights, no spears here. They're just going to charge straight in, smash, and then pull away as the Marauders follow up. And the Blues are already unleashing some of their volleys on the Bleak Swords, which is actually totally fine. One of the cheapest units with great missile block chance, so it's actually really good for the Dark Elves. That's kind of the most ideal target for the Blues throw their fire at, but Scourge Runner Chariots are going to be pressuring out on this flank, trying to get some damage on the high-value Chaos Knights, trying to keep them from regenerating their barrier, but they are at risk of getting countershot there by the Marauder Horsemen. Same thing over on this far side, except, no, this time actually the Scourge Chariots targeting the Marauder Horsemen directly, and in the center we get a big engagement between the Dragons and the Horned Ones, or sorry, Cold One Dread Knights. Horned Ones is the elite cavalry for Lizardmen, obviously. Yeah, I'm not sure what the Tzeentch Knights pathing is exactly doing here, if they're trying to pull away or what, but yeah, they do end up just kind of holding out against his Dark Riders, managed to get themselves into a charge animation to hit those Scourge Runner Chariots, while the Cold One Dread Knights went to go smash this infantry. A little bit interesting, but they're going to then reunify and get back to that fight. Knights taking significant damage. Exalted Lord of Change also coming down to fight on the ground. He's got really good melee stats in comparison to all the other Lord of Change variants. It's definitely the best Lord of Change variant in melee, so no surprise there to see him tangling with the most elite Dread Knights of Dark Elves. Well, not technically the most elite. They're not the Regiment of Renown, but still, you get what I mean. Warrior's Prowess also pops off here. This unit of Tzeentch Knights is going to fall, and the Dread Knights follow up immediately, trying to smash into those blue horrors. Generally, yes, that's a phrase people say. Generally, the forces of Tzeentch having a little bit of issues here, but the Dark Elves are also taking fairly significant damage, and they're not able to quite finish off a lot of units here. But Marauders fighting here. Dread Knights once again trying to get on the Tzeentch Knights, go 2v1 here. We'll see. I don't think, is there Final Transmutation? That would be absolutely devastating. No Final Transmutation, actually, just Searing Doom and Plague of Rust. Even Searing Doom in and of itself can be really good if you get a unit clumped up, like these Halberds here. Not going to be the best contact, but it'll be reasonably cost-effective for how cheap the spell is, but especially if you can get a Cavalry unit clumped up, like this little clump right here, and kill an extreme amount of the models because of the way the damage is applied to Cavalry models. But, oh yeah, Tzeentch Knights lurking, charging in from the back, looking to shut down the Scourge Runner Chariots. Scourge Chariots are very good. We don't see them as much anymore, but they are a very strong tool for the Dark Elves. They have used up pretty much all of their ammunition, though, and not all of the high-value targets have been eliminated. In terms of the large stuff, like, there's still a decent amount of Knights left, and Marauder Horsemen, of course, Trader Joe here, is completely healthy still and fighting up in the air. And obviously, the Supreme Sorceress Dark Magic will be a decent combatant against him. Let's actually compare here real quick. 50, 46, 520. So yeah, 50, 50, 450. So less weapon strength, but a little bit more melee defense. I would imagine that, yeah, health-wise also, they're probably pretty close. Supreme Sorceress has a little bit more right now, and is going to be getting even more with, well, gets hit by some missiles there, but also some Soul Stealer, so a little bit of give and take. But with Tzeentch having the ranged support still online, Scourge Runners are completely out of ammunition, whereas these Marauder Horsemen, Blues, are still using their ammunition to pressure the Supreme Sorceress. That might be able to equalize the HP component of this a little bit. Keep in mind the Blackguards are also still a factor. Anti-Kaiju sensing this is going to call down a really nice Searing Doom. Manages to even catch a few of those Dread Knights as they... I was going to say gallop by, but that feels very wrong. Saunter, that also feels a little bit wrong too. What kind of verb would you use to describe the way that these little raptors run? I'm not sure. You guys let me know down in the comments below. But Big Bird jumps down to help out his Marauders and his Knights. They're able to terrify away the Dread Knights fairly quickly. And, yeah, that Warp Flame contact effect also does synergize quite well. Even though it's only 10 armor, it's still, you know, an extra 10 armor. You know, 5 to 10% mitigation off of the enemy's armor. So, it's quite a decent effect. You know, helps Chaos Knights and other non-AP units just get that extra little bit of damage. And since it's available to such a cheap unit like the, you know, Marauder Horsemen, who obviously are meant to synergize well with the Knights in general in kind of the mobility phase, it's decent. But speaking of mobility phase, this battle's getting quite spread out as both players have units kind of all over the place right now. I apologize, my cat's trying to invade my space, so here's some bumping of the microphone stand. But anyway, yeah, the thing is, Tzeentch has a pretty good mobility advantage at this point, so when the battlefield gets all separated and spread out like this, it's going to work pretty heavily in Anti-Kaiju's favor here. Tzeentch will be able to clean up a lot of kind of small, tattered units all over the field, like these Knights, 39 unit models still online. A decent amount of HP there. Their barrier is able to regenerate a good amount of HP as well. A little Soul Stealer on the Exalted Lord of Change. Again, it's going to do some good barrier damage, a little bit of real HP damage as well. But he manages to summon in some Furies. Very good ability. I usually tend to burn it pretty early on in the battle, but still has it available. A Plague of Rust. So 50 armor, minus 30 plus minus 10 from the Warp Flame, so minus 40 overall. Yeah, that Supreme Sorcerer is definitely going to be taking significantly more damage from the Javelins and the Furies during that uptime. So smart of her to just try and pull away there. Trader Joe saunters on back to his melee infantry units. Meanwhile, Chaos Knights here just finishing off the last of the support for the Dark Elves. Sending those Cold One Dread Knights packing to the hills, so it's just the Blackguard left at this point, and Dragon Lady taking Warp Flame Javelins. And here comes Trader Joe. Summoning in some more magic, it looks like. No. Oh, yep, little Searing Doom, forcing the Blackguard there to move. But Supreme Sorceress, I think just the Javelins, that magic missile there, yeah, it's going to be enough to finish her off. That Tzeentch army ability, of course, the one missile bombardment, it's a lot better since the homing was fixed. And it does apply that sundered armor as well. Tzeentch, just in general, has a lot of ways to tear your armor away. So against a faction like Dark Elves, you only need a couple of those type of units and then take the rest, you know, non-AP damage and just get quite a bit of profit. I didn't realize those are actually Zangors. Nice. Yeah, one of the Zangors does manage to pay for themselves. One of the Knights does as well. Exalted Lord of Change doesn't get a crazy amount of value. Probably doesn't quite pay for himself. But support-wise, you know, the Plague of Rust allows these Marauder Horsemen to shine through. They're truly the MVPs of this particular battle. And I can't say it's particularly surprising for me, especially in this matchup. Like I said, given historically, just the Dark Elves generally will bully Tzeentch with their kind of mobile skirmish units. So we didn't see any Dark Riders with repeater crossbows, but both of the Scourge Chariots brought did pay for themselves. Yeah, I could see this matchup almost going full like Scourge Chariots plus Dark Riders, like whatever the maximum allowable is for a given tournament rule set. And then, you know, melee Dark Riders. I do like to pick the Shadow Dragon. Or, sorry, the Dark Dragon. Always going to be a good choice. The Cold One Knights are an interesting one as well. One of them ends up pretty much paying for itself. One of them does not. So a little bit of a mixed bag. But I like the pick here to potentially help counteract the Tzeentch Knights. I think it's a pretty smart pick overall. But an interesting one nonetheless. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching that. For me, it was quite enjoyable. Overall, infantry is pretty much just a wash. I mean, one of the blues does a nice job paying for themselves, but yeah, definitely the Marauder Horsemen were the bright spot for Boojilicious. So hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this one. If you do like the sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.